Good evening. I would like to welcome everyone to the June 10th council meeting of the City of Mayfield Heights. May I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Balestria.
Present.
Mr. DeJohn.
Here.
Mr. Mano.
Here.
Mr. Minor.
Here.
Mrs. Sabetta.
Here.
Mrs. Snyder.
Here.
Ms. Tobin.
Here.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next, we will move to the approval of the minutes from the May 29th, 2024 Committee of the Whole meeting. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Moved.
Moved by Mrs. Sabetta, second by Mrs. Talbin. Are there any changes, amendments, or deletions to these minutes? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Ms. Talbin, you were absent?
That's right, it
Okay.
just dawned on me.
Okay. All right. These minutes have been approved. Next, we'll move to the approval of the minutes from the May 29th council meeting, and I hope everyone has had time to read these over. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Moved.
Moved by Mr. Mano
Second.
and second by Mr. Balestria. Are there any changes, amendments, or deletions to these minutes? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Mrs. Talbin, you
Abstain.
abstain. Okay. All right, these minutes have now been approved. One second. Does any member of council have any correspondence or announcements?
Madam President,
Mr. DeJohn?
thank you. I got a call from a Robert Saket. I believe that's how you pronounce it. And he said that he read the article, and this is how he started off with me. He said he read the article in the newspaper about the grand opening of the Aquatic Center, and he feels that the Aquatic Center is only for recreation and parties, and there's nothing for seniors. Now, he did tell me he was a 60-year resident of the city, and so he asked me to say something at the meeting tonight, and then he asked me to have the mayor call him. So I just wanted to relay that information on to everybody. Thank.
Not on the mic.
Yeah, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I did have a resident say something also at the, actually at the event, and was wondering if there's a way that we can offer some form of a pass to the seniors who just want to go up there and sit, you know, and not utilize the pool, but maybe sit by the, you know, the concession stand and just watch, and people watch, and like an observer type of a pass. And I said I would reach out to Mr. Ward or to you to see if that's a possibility. But they just want somewhere to go. They're not necessarily going to use the facility, but just to come up and hang out and maybe get something to eat and just observe. So I don't know if that's something we can add in the future, if possibly. Okay, Mr. DeJohn?
He also said that, you know, if you go to other communities, they have a dedicated senior center where they can actually do that. So he mentioned that to me. He says, you could go to Lake County, go to Menor, you know, so. And so, and Mayor can report back to us after he talks to him.
Perfect, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Anything further? I just wanted to thank all the people that planned and worked the grand opening of the ACC last Tuesday. It was a great event. It was so nice to see so many residents and their families come out to enjoy the day. The police department's duck race fundraiser was so much fun to watch. Hopefully, we will host more of these events in the future. That's my report. We will now move to reports of officers, starting with the mayor.
Thank you, Madam President. I echo your sentiments about the ribbon cutting for the ACC. It was a huge success. The weather was phenomenal. We had so much help from everyone here at City Hall. Every department, every employee just helped in any way they could. So it made it a great day, a great collaboration with everybody to make it a huge success. From the VIP families showcasing the history wall to the appreciation of our residents and the hot dogs and the pizza afterwards. I mean, it really was a great day. So, yep, I want to thank everyone who participated and thank the residents for everything they have done to get us to this point. We owe them gratitude for funding, so to speak, the ACC, and it's something that they deserve, and I hope they enjoy it for years to come. Unity Days is June 21st through the 23rd. You can go to our website for details on that, and I'd like to assure everyone that we will make sure this is a safe family event for all of our residents. And I'd like to congratulate Chief Elliott, who received the Northeast Ohio Healthcare Coalition Impact Award on Friday. This acknowledges the work he's done not only for Mayfield Heights emergency preparedness, but also for the entire region. So thanks, Chief, for your dedication and commitment to keeping our residents safe. Thank you. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the mayor? Congratulations, Chief. We will now move to the law director. I'd like to welcome Mr. Schmidlin here this evening.
Thank you,
Do you
Madam
have any
President.
reports?
Mr. Murphy and Mickey are taking some well-deserved time off visiting their children in the Carolinas. The only thing that Mr. Murphy asked me to relay is that his suggestion that we place 2024-12 on first reading tonight.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Schmidlin? Thank you.
Oh, thank God.
No questions. Okay. And Director of Finance, we have Assistant Mrs. Edmonds here this evening. Do you have a report?
Thank you, Madam President. No, I have no report this evening.
Okay, thank you. Welcome.
Madam President,
Any questions for Mrs. Edmonds?
I don't have any questions. But I do want to bring up the Mayfield Union Cemetery, so I don't know if we should bring this up now.
I was going to do it under the reports from all of our boards. Because
Okay.
you're appointed to that.
Okay.
So like,
It's not on the,
yeah, I just was going to say it after the planning, but I'll make sure I call on you. I won't forget.
Madam Chair, if
Okay.
I could,
Yes.
I want the Assistant Finance Director to give us a lengthy report about our finance. No, I'm just kidding.
The poor thing. You're good. All right, Director or Department Directors, is there any director here this evening that would like to give a report? Mr. Rowan?
Thank you. In my last report to council in March, I talked about the importance of business outreach and retention. So I wanted to talk and share a little bit about my efforts in my outreach over the past couple of months. So using the updated business list, I sent an introductory email to businesses on the following streets or retail developments. So on Allen Bradley in Eastgate, Golden Gate Boulevard, Golden Gate Plaza, and Lander. So I had a few bounces of those emails, which we'll go back and update those addresses. But the outreach was pretty good. So we had direct communications with about 16% of those businesses that we emailed. Not bad for mostly retail businesses on top of that. So the comments were largely positive. We had a lot of good comments about the police department, about the service department. And I was able to coordinate some follow-up issues with some other department heads in the city and have them follow up on some items that people did bring up. And I'll be going ahead and emailing that same introductory email to businesses in the other parts of the city over the next month, and then following up with those meetings as well. But it really, beyond that kind of broad outreach, I've been focused a lot on the largest payroll withholding businesses in the city over the last couple of months. So I've met or scheduled introductory meetings with 6 of the top 10 businesses in the community. So I've had great meetings with Parker Hannafin, the Clinic, Heisler Yale, Materion, which Team Neo and Jobs Ohio participated in. So I have a couple more coming up this month. Again, overall, they were very positive meetings. The businesses were really happy that the city chose to invest in this position and had someone outreaching to them, something they hadn't really received a lot of in the past. So it was a lot of really positive feedback. So based on that initial feedback and some of my own thoughts, I'm going to be discussing some recommendations with the mayor next time we sit down, really going through my work program, so looking at goals, strategies, objectives, focusing on business retention and outreach, attraction, marketing, and then planning and development review here in the city. Going to suggest developing some strategies to perhaps look at improving the gateways into the community and some of the entry points based on some of the feedback I heard from the businesses, and then explore the idea of developing a land use plan with economic analysis as really the main input into that, focusing on the corporate park area. And then also I wanted to touch on some of the new businesses that we've had move into the city so far this year. So we've had Akron Children's Hospital has opened a location here in Mayfield Heights. They're at 5800 Landerbrook Drive. Hobby Lobby, I think as everyone knows, is open on Mayfield. Kogan and Kogan Dental just recently opened at 5875 Landerbrook Drive. The Cleveland Clinic has a cosmetic surgery department that opened an operation at 5900 Landerbrook Drive, and then Tropical Smoothie Cafe just recently opened right across the street here from City Hall. They're going to be having a more formal grand opening at some point here in June. So we've been, as a result of our conversation last month, we're going to be adding our new businesses to the web page under the economic development portion there. So residents can see the new businesses moving in, and anyone that has an interest can see that. So as we get occupancy permits, we'll add those to the website. And so additionally, on the new business front, I recently met with a business that's located in a neighboring community that's looking to move into Mayfield Heights and take 30,000 square feet of vacant space in one of the multi-tenant buildings. So they're negotiating their real estate deal this month, so they'll make a decision by the end of the month. And if it goes forward, they're going to relocate by the end of this year. So hopefully we'll have some positive news to share next time I provide a report to council. There's a lot of multi-tenant space that needs filled here in the city, so we got to take advantage of these opportunities when they arise. So that's important. So that concludes my report.
Thank you so much. It's really what we've all been looking for a long time. We appreciate you telling us what's going on in the
Certainly.
community. Does any member of council have any questions for Mr. Rowan?
Thanks, Jeremy.
Mr.
You're welcome.
Balestrea?
No, just a heartfelt thank you.
Yes,
Something that we
thank
haven't
you.
heard for a long time.
Sure.
Thank
Sure.
you.
All right, thank you.
Great, thanks. Is there anyone else that would like to be heard? Any other directors? We're good? Okay. All right, we will now move to reports of committees, commissions, and boards, beginning with the Building Committee. Mr. DeJohn.
Thank you, Madam President. I have no report.
Finance and Audit Committee.
Thank you, Madam President. Do not have a report, but just to note that the after-meeting memo or summary that I sent to council is now attached to the Finance and Audit Committee meeting from 4/15, April 15th of this year. So just to note that.
Okay, great, thank you. Legislative Committee, Mrs. Sabetta.
Thank you, Madam President. No report.
Public Works and Service, Mr. Balestrea.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There will be a Public Works and Services Committee meeting this Wednesday, June 12th at 5 p.m. in these chambers. I encourage all of council to attend. That concludes my report.
Recreation and Parks Committee, Mr. Mano.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. On behalf of the Recreation Department, I'd like to thank all who helped make our grand opening on Tuesday, June 4th, a memorable day. Today, our sold-out day camp and teen camp began. Despite the cool temperatures, the Recreation Department's summer season has begun. Unity Days is scheduled for Friday, June 21st, 5 p.m. to 11 p.m., and Saturday, June 22nd, from 4 p.m. to 10:30 p.m. Friday night entertainment is Audiophile. Saturday night entertainment is Amped, followed by fireworks around 9:45. Sunday, June 23rd, the parade will step off at the Greens of Lyndhurst at 1 p.m. More Unity Days information will be posted on social media and our website in the coming days. For Unity Days weekend, the Aquatic Center schedule will be as follows. Friday, 11:30 to 5. We will close at 5 p.m. Friday night for Unity Days. Saturday, 11:30 to 3. We will open on for Mayfield Heights residents free of charge. Proof of residency is required for admission. Sunday, closed. Enjoy the parade. That's my report.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Mano? Safety and Transportation, Mrs. Talbot.
There was no meeting, so I don't have a report, but I will call out that we have a resolution on the agenda, 2024-33, and so I look for everybody's support.
Thank you. Okay, Board of Zoning Appeals, Mrs. Sabetta.
Thank you, Madam President. The Board of Zoning will meet tomorrow night here in council chambers at 7 p.m. There are 2 items on the agenda, and then a discussion on codified ordinance, Part 11, Planning and Zoning Codes. Thank you.
Thank you. Planning Commission, Mr. Balestrea.
Thank you, Madam Chair. No report, and Planning Commission did not meet.
Thank you. And then Mayfield Union Cemetery, Mr. DeJohn.
Thank you, Madam President. A couple issues with the Mayfield Union Cemetery. So first is there's an appropriation that we're going to be putting on readings tonight, and on there was an additional $2,000 for the cemetery to increase our fee to $3,000 annually for maintenance of the cemetery. I sent all of you the financial reports for the cemetery. I know some of you have suggested to take turns taking care of the cemetery, but Mayfield Village really prefers to take care of it themselves, which I can understand because a lot of those burials don't have burial vaults. Probably most of them don't have burial vaults, and it's a dangerous situation there. So they know the cemetery, and they work with the Garden Club from Mayfield Village in helping them maintain the cemetery. So I really see the reasoning behind why they want to maintain the cemetery themselves, and for us to contribute along with Highland Heights. So I'll welcome any questions regarding that, but also the Mayfield Union Cemetery Board Committee is asking for an additional $5,000 from us, Highland Heights and Mayfield Village, to help restore the cemetery. Now, this would be a 5-year plan. We did get an estimate from a company last November. They'll guarantee that to the end of this year. And as we all know, costs are going up. They want to start to restore all of those headstones in the cemetery that have fallen over, cracked, what have you. And so, again, it's a 5-year plan, and we'll require at least $5,000 from us this year, as well as Mayfield Heights, or Mayfield Village and Highland Heights. And I welcome any questions regarding these 2 appropriations that we're going to be looking for from you in the future.
Mr. Minor?
Is it 5,000 total, or is it 5,000 a year over the next 5 years?
Right now, the estimate is 5,000 per year per city, so $15,000 per year right now, unless that goes up. I did talk with the monument company. They are going to guarantee their quote for this year, and they have a requirement that they want at least $15,000 of work annually. So it's not like we can say, okay, go ahead and do 10,000, and they're not going to do that, so.
Mr. DeJohn, I have a question.
Yeah, sure.
And I don't know this about other cemeteries. Is it because it's a historical cemetery that you have to do the upkeep? Because if you have somebody in another cemetery, like at Knollwood, would it be your responsibility to take care of the headstones or the person?
Yeah, it's because it's a historical cemetery, and I guess all three cities are part of that. And now, as far as the restoration goes, I suggested maybe doing fundraisers next year to help fund that. We are going to look for grants to help us fund that restoration. But yeah, it's the responsibility of all three cities.
Okay. Any further questions? Mrs. Savetta, did you have?
Yeah, I had a long discussion with Mr. DeJohn due to the fact that I have been on this Mayfield Union Cemetery twice. And during the last budget period, Mayfield Village wanted to be paid to cut the grass, something they were never paid for. So we did not approve the budget because we were unsure. We've been paying each city, 3 cities, and we are part of this board and this trust, and written in the documents, $1,000 for many, many, many years. And now we have trouble there because many things have not been taken care of. It's, if you walk through it, you can see the desperation that's needed there. And we know, we've heard from our residents that they've had functions and reason to go there. Now, the Boy Scouts come very nice and put out the flags. We used to get a lot of flowers from Mayfield Village, and the Historic Society, they put the flowers out in front. We don't pay for that. But the upkeep, is going up there. But mostly what needs to be done is, besides the lawn, the trimming, which is a separate company, and the fertilizer, which is a separate company, and we're paying for that now. The 2,000 is understandable, but the reason is for the 2,000 is because there's only 3 cities. Gates Mills was part, but is no longer. I don't know why that is, but 10 years ago I was told that by Patsy Mills, who has used a lot of her power and friendship to get things done. But now we have to start paying. I wish we had more than one company, but Mr. DeJohn told me that this is a reputable company and they do work around here. I wish we could get another estimate.
So I have a question. I'm a little confused. So I know the city keeps up with the maintenance, but so you were referring to the restoration?
Yes.
Okay.
The
Because it sounded
restoration.
like you were saying that we hire someone to do but I know it's the city that does the work, like the cutting of the grass and everything.
Well, there is a trust which doesn't have a lot of money in, and if
Right.
we didn't do this, it would deplete the
Right.
trust,
I know I've sat on the same
Yeah.
board, so I understand. I was just trying to clarify that part.
Yeah, the restoration mostly is what's happening with all the stones, and there's a lot of them.
Yeah.
And I understand why they want to cut the grass. We just felt, when we had our discussion, now the board is turned over, so their discussion was different than ours, that it's in their jurisdiction why are we paying for them to cut the grass? If it was in our jurisdiction, our city employees would cut the grass, so.
Madam Chair. So Bob, how does the city opt out of it? I mean, not that we would, I'm just saying, how did, if Gates Mills was originally in it,
I don't know how that happened. I'm too new to this.
and,
this is my
I've never
first
looked
time.
at, I've never looked at the charter of the cemetery or to see how it was established,
We're going to have a meeting at the end of the month, and I can.
because I think that history would be really helpful to everybody to know why we are responsible. I guess no perpetual care was ever, funds were ever put away for it in trust. So, I mean, I think that would be helpful to get a little bit of history, and we know,
Ms. Snyder?
Well, and the other thing I want, one second, let me just make a comment. With the cities taking, years ago, we did take care of that property. I think our service department. Didn't, Mr. Brunello, we never did? We discussed wanting to, I think. We never pursued that. Okay. All right.
So yes, I'll get a history and how Kate's Mills left, and it's us, but it's probably the school district. It's probably got something to do with the four
Ms.
cities
Snyder?
school districts. So.
Mr. Ballister.
When I was served on the committee, I was, if I can recall, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, the cemetery was here when it was a Mayfield Township.
Right.
Yeah, correct.
And so when the cities eventually formed, that became the village. The cemetery happened to reside in the village. And so the neighboring communities all decided to still take care of the cemetery, when at one point it was all inclusive. We were all part of the township. So I think that's a little bit of the history from what I understand. So that's how that came about.
Get out of it, though. That's interesting.
Right.
Mr. Mano?
That cemetery was Margaret Egensberg's project. She used to take care of a lot of the stuff there. She had some of her employees from the insurance company going there to cut the grass and plant flowers. And she used to take care of a lot of that stuff herself. I think she had some family buried in there or something, but it's like a historical thing. And I recall back then, though, that there was, all the communities were involved in taking care of that.
I thought.
And then, I guess over time, things just changed, but you might go back into her tenure and see if there were meetings or anything that she participated in it for the care of the cemetery. But I know she was always concerned that the cemetery was going to be let go. So she took it upon herself to do a lot of different things there. That's all.
And I think one more thing, wasn't it part of the Mayfield Historical Society as well? They work together with.
They do. They
did.
hold the records, I
Yes.
believe, for the
Okay.
cemetery. So all the burials of what they
Yeah.
can find. So.
Okay.
But, so there's really two issues here. So the issue of restoration, $5,000 or $15,000 for this year. And then the other issue of adding money for the maintenance, an additional $2,000 to make it $3,000 for the year from all three cities. So that's the two issues that we're talking about here. And really, we should all put our heads together and see if we can come up with some type of fundraiser every year to help fund the restoration of this cemetery. Like, for example, if we did something at Home Days, somebody on the board suggested Patsy Mills, I guess, weaves
Makes
or knits
quilts.
blankets,
She
quilts,
makes
there you go,
quilts.
quilts, and they would raffle those off at, next year at cruise night. So if any resident out there would like to, participate in a fundraiser or come up with some ideas, we would welcome that, so. And the cemetery is getting a lot of complaints about the way it looks, so the restoration needs to be done. And there's only so much money that probably the state's gonna allot towards that. There's probably a lot of these cemeteries throughout the state, so, thank you.
Thank you. Anything further from council?
I can.
Oh, Mrs. Sabetta?
Okay, so I have in my folder from Patsy Cline a lot of information concerning Mayfield Union Cemetery, how it got started. There's staffing, organization. I'd be willing to share all that with everybody.
Perfect. Thank you.
To all of us, yeah.
I got to scan it.
Okay. Thank you, Bob, for the report. Ms. Talbin?
We could also, the Historical Society does have a library, and so we could ask them to do some homework in their library to see what they have. And maybe it's some of the things that Mrs. Sisbetta already has, but they may have other things. We could also use a librarian at the Mayfield Library to do a lot of work, because librarians can unhinge all sorts of things. So we might want to be able to enlist that as a special project.
Okay, great. Thank you. And Bob, were they bringing this up at the council meetings in the other cities as well?
Yes, Mrs. D'Amico was gonna talk to the mayor in Highland Heights, and Dennis Murphy was gonna talk to them in Mayfield Village. So they're waiting to see, we're gonna meet at the end of this month and see where we're at as far as obtaining additional funds, both for the restoration and the maintenance of the cemetery.
I do have one more question. This restoration came up like halfway through the year. Is this something that they were going to do
Last year.
last year it came up, but
The
you just
estimate came
reporting
in
on it,
last
right?
year, and it was done in November. We received it in November, the estimate for the restoration. I did verify with the company that they would guarantee it for this year, and they have. It's just one of those unfortunate situations, something we should have done 20 years ago. Started restoring it little by little. We did get a second estimate, but they're leaning towards this first estimate that we received.
Okay. All right, thank you.
And you should all have that. I did email it to you also.
All right. You done? Did you have something?
No, no,
Okay.
thank you.
All right. All right, we will now move to comments from the public. Pursuant to city code, each person will be allotted 5 minutes to speak, with a maximum of 30 minutes allotted for the entire public portion. If you are here in connection with an agenda item, this is your opportunity to address council. If you would like to be heard this evening, please fill out a form located on the table at the public entrance. And during the public portion, I will call each person wishing to speak to the podium. Please state your name and address for the record. It is now 7:40. I'll open up the public portion. No? Okay. All right. I will now close the public portion, 7:40. We will now move to resolutions, beginning with resolution number 2024-31. I will pass this over to Mr. Don Mano and Mr. Schmidlin.
Thank you, Madam President. Resolution number 2024-31, a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into a memorandum of understanding with Mayfield City Schools, continuing the school resource officer program and declaring an emergency.
Is there a motion to suspend the rules?
Moved.
Moved by Mr. Balistrea,
Second.
second by Mr. Minor. Roll call on motion to suspend?
Mr. Balistrea.
Yes.
Mr. DeJohn.
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta.
Yes,
Ms. Tobin.
Yes.
Mr. Minor.
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder.
Abstain?
Mr. Mano.
Yes. Motion is carried.
Roll call.
Discussion or comments? Oh, I'm sorry. Motion to approve. Do I have a motion to approve?
moved.
Mrs. Sabetta? Second.
Second.
Mr. Balistrea? Roll call?
No, discussion.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay. You're okay.
All right. This is a resolution that will provide the continuation of the School Resource Officer Program for the 2024-25 school year. The City of Mayfield Heights provides 2 school resource officers, one at Lander School, Patrolman Van Snyder, and one at Mayfield Middle School, Patrolman Joe Leskovitz. By authorizing this resolution, we will continue the School Resource Officer Program. Any comments or discussion? Ms. Sabetta?
Thank you. Are there any changes from the last MOU to this one?
You look at the details. I do not believe there were any changes. Donovan, is there anything significant? Do you remember?
I did review it. There were no changes on the draft that was provided. I did make a couple suggestions to Mr. Devlin, but I don't see them on the draft.
Okay. Yeah, I remember talking to Mr. Murphy about it, and I didn't think there was anything that was changed. I didn't realize that you had some suggested changes.
Just with Scalia compliance, there were just a couple items that weren't real clear in the MOU. I think they're a bit more specific to some of our compliance. But I can send you an email on that too.
Okay, all right. Well, I mean, if council's comfortable voting on this now, and then we can go back and talk and modify it if we had to.
Okay. Anyone else?
Madam President.
What's Kalia?
Donovan, why don't you?
What do you mean you don't know what Kalia is?
Hello, Donovan Paquette, Captain Mayfield Heights. So we are an accredited police agency, so we have an outside organization basically come in and we show proofs of compliance for many different things. It's very thorough. We're kind of proud of it because it's a lot of work that we put into it. So we're going to be getting an assessment this year from Kalia. Basically, we provide a bunch of documentation to them, and then in November, they actually come out to our agency and do an inspection. In regard to the MOU, one of the suggestions that I made was to add a performance review standard to it. So right now, it does not include a performance review, but we wanted the school to provide documentation to us that our school resource officers were basically, doing a great job or where they were falling short so that we can make sure that, they're up to the standard they need to be. So that was one of the main ones. And then there were just a couple. Another suggestion, I believe, was to the contract limitations and how they can terminate that if we needed to. Just kind of legality stuff to get out of the contract if we had to. And that was it. Any questions? All right.
Thank you.
Real quick,
Mayor?
he kind of brushed over how he said they were proud, kind of proud of being Kalia. They should be very proud. It's a very stringent set of rules and regulations and monitoring that takes place that they do.
Accreditation.
And it's not easy to get. Kalia accreditation is a very high honor, so it's something to be very proud of. So, not kinda proud.
Yeah.
I can tell you, having a grandchild at middle school and a grandchild teaching at Lander School, they love their resource officers. They really do. The kids really respond to them very, very well. So, anyone else? Mr. Minor?
So the only question I would have is, depending upon changes, do we need to change our motion at all to include possible changes, or do we vote as is? No? Okay.
You can always amend the ordinance.
Okay, so vote as is and then amend as necessary.
If there's something that we missed or if there's some clerical error, we could always amend it and
Okay.
no problem. No problem, because Mr. Murphy will do it.
Okay.
The caveat I would give as if there was some dissension or divide among the council about what the change is. But provided there was just something that we overlooked, you can always amend it.
Anyone else? Okay. I'll call the roll for approval.
Mr. DeJohn,
Yes.
Mr. Minor,
Yes.
Ms. Tobin,
Yes.
Mr. Balestria,
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder,
Abstain?
Mrs. Sabetta,
Yes.
Mr. Mano.
Yes. This motion is passed. Turn the meeting back over to Madam President.
Thank you. Resolution number 2024-32, Mr. Schmidlin.
Madam President, number 2024-32, a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with Signal Service Company for the purchase of traffic signal equipment, including installation of multiple locations for use by the Mayfield Heights Police Department, and declaring an emergency.
Is there a motion to suspend the rules?
Moved.
Moved by Mr. Mano
Second.
and second by Mr. Balestria. Roll call on the motion to suspend.
Ms. Tobin,
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta,
Yes.
Mr. Minor,
Yes.
Mr. Mano, Mr. DeJohn,
Yes.
Mr. Balestria.
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder.
Yes. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved?
Moved by Mrs. Sabetta
Second.
and second by Mr. Mano. We all should have received an email from Chief Mealy explaining this resolution and need to hire signal service. Chief Mealy also presented this to us at the last council meeting. In June of 2023, the council approved the purchase of the intersection cameras and the license plate readers. The quote from Signal Service is $42,302, and this price will cover all 3 intersections where these cameras will be installed. Are there any comments or questions from council? Roll call on the motion to approve.
Mr. Balestria.
Yes.
Ms. Tobin.
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta.
Yes.
Mr. DeJohn.
Yes.
Mr. Minor.
Yes.
Mr. Mano.
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder.
Yes, this resolution has been approved. We will now move to resolution number 2024-33. Mr. Schmidlin.
Resolution number 2024-33, a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with Atlantic Emergency Solutions for the purchase of 1 aerial device fire apparatus for use by the Mayfield Heights Fire Department and declaring an emergency.
Thank you. Is there a motion to suspend the rules?
Moved.
Moved by Mr. Mano and second by Mrs. Sabetta. Roll call on the motion to suspend.
Mr. Minor.
Yes.
Mr.
Yes.
DeJohn.
Yes.
Mr. Mano.
Sorry. Yes.
Mr. Balestria.
Yes.
Things are
Mrs.
driving me
Sabetta.
nuts. I'm sorry.
Tobin.
Jeez, oh,
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder.
Yes. Sorry. Is there a motion to approve?
Move.
Second?
Moved by Mr. Balestre and second by Mrs. Sabetta. At the last council meeting, Chief Elliott provided an in-depth presentation about the purchase and the need of a new aerial fire truck. If we award the contract to Atlantic Emergency Solutions, the base price of this truck would be $2,283,342. By authorizing this purchase, we will get the ball rolling, and this company has 2 trucks in stock. Chief Elliott explained that the truck would not be ready for delivery till February or through May of 2027, I believe. All members should have received the committee of the whole presentation in your packets as well. And thank you, Chief, for preparing all of that for us. Any questions or comments about the truck or for Mr. Anybody? Chief? Nope. Okay. Roll call on the motion to approve.
Mrs. Sabetta.
Yes.
Mr. Mano.
yes.
Mr. Balestria.
Yes.
Ms. Tobin.
Yes.
Mr. Minor.
Yes.
Mr. DeJohn.
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder.
Yes. This resolution has now been adopted. We will move to ordinances, beginning with ordinance number 2024-12. Mr. Schmidlin.
Ordinance 2024-12, an ordinance amending the original appropriations ordinance 2023-30 2023-30 for the current expenses and other expenditures of the City of Mayfield Heights, State of Ohio, for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2024, as previously amended by ordinance 2024-09, specifically the transfer and supplemental appropriations of funds in various accounts and declaring an emergency.
It was recommended by our law director this evening to place this on first reading, so that'll be placed on first reading.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. There are no motions this evening. Is there any new business or comments from council? Great, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Moved.
Moved by Mrs. Sabetta,
Second.
second by Ms. Talbin. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?